Friday storm timeline, basically all day, depending on where you live. We're going to start out in West Texas earlier today as we head into the evening and late night hours into the central portion of the state and all the way as far east as places like San Antonio and Houston as we head into the overnight early morning hours on Saturday. All modes of severe weather are possible today, including that hail, wind, tornado, and flooding threat. Flooding will actually be an issue all weekend long. That flash flooding is possible across the southern portion of the U.S. all the way through Sunday. Storms will start out to the west where we have the greatest hail potential, moving through the evening hours into the central portion of the state, central portion of Texas. Now let me tell you something about this hail threat here. It's going to weaken, it's going to decrease as we head into the late night hours. We're going to go from a hail to a wind threat. So some of these initial few storms that we see this afternoon, those are going to be your hailers right there. Eastern portion of Texas tomorrow, Corpus Christi, all the way into Houston. There is a hail threat in this area. However, I'm keeping those hailstone sizes on the smaller side, so we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Taking a look at your hail forecast for today. We went ahead and we upgraded the hail forecast today. Yesterday, we were talking about maybe 2-inch size hailstones. We have upgraded that based on new information. We are now saying up to baseball size hail today, anywhere from places like Fort Stockton, Midland, Sweetwater, Texas, again with some of these initial storms that are forming this afternoon. Let's take a look at the risks as we put these hail chips on here. We're going to go with a level 3, a high risk for Fort Stockton, Midland, and Sweetwater. I highlighted this area yesterday saying this was going to be the area to watch. I'm sticking to that today. I think that's the case. As you go farther to the north and out to the east, as I mentioned earlier, that hail risk is going to go down, but the wind and the tornado risk may go up. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Again, maximum hail size today, we are going with baseball size hail. Moving on to your tornado forecast, because that's another pretty significant thing that we have to talk about. As these storms move to the east, out of Midland, out of Fort Stockton, we are going to see that tornado threat intensify into places like San Antonio and all the way up into Austin. This is going to continue through the overnight hours tonight and into early tomorrow morning. I will note here that one of the most dangerous weather hazards that we have are nocturnal tornadoes, tornadoes that happen at night. Dallas in that level 1 risk, it's absolutely possible to still get an isolated tornado or two in this area through the overnight hours and even into Houston through the early morning hours tomorrow. Taking a look at the wind risk as well, I've highlighted one area in particular as these storms continue to track to the east through the overnight hours. In addition to that tornado and hail threat, you've also got a high wind threat where we could get up to 80-mile-per-hour wind speeds. I know our range is up to 95. I don't think that we'll get above maybe 80, 85 there, but still, that's extremely strong wind. So let's talk about the timeline. I've highlighted areas that you have to keep an eye on, right? Lots of rain across the U.S., but really Texas and western Texas, that's where we're keeping our eye on for severe weather. Starting right now, we've got those first few isolated storms forming. Right now, they'll stay isolated. But as we head into the evening hours, right around dinner time, these storms are going to become more numerous and cluster up together, forming a line of storms as it gets dark. Now this line of storms, that's when we make the switch from hail risk to wind and tornado risk. Right now, it's mainly a hail and tornado risk. As we see these storms cluster together, that's whenever we switch over to that wind and tornado risk. Anytime we see these backwards C shapes right here, that is a great signature to signify strong wind speeds. So that's why we highlighted this area for the strongest winds. As these storms come into San Antonio, check the timeline here, 3:30 in the morning. Dallas as well, it's an overnight system, and then early morning hours for Houston. One more time with this timeline here. This is the HRRR, the HRRR. Oftentimes on big weather days, I like to show you 2 different weather models that we look at so that you can see that there's a lot of consistency today. A lot of consistency on what the timeline will be today. It looks like isolated at first this afternoon. As it gets dark, these storms congeal into a line of storms crossing I-35 through the late night hours. The HRRR may be going a little bit earlier, crossing into San Antonio and Dallas, and then into Houston by the early morning hours. Now that's your risk for today, Saturday. I'm going to check my comments section. Are there any weather questions for us today? Chipper's on here today. Thanks for joining us. Hey, HailTrace team, thank you for joining us today. As always, I see a few more people jumping on here. Put your weather questions in the comments section, and we will get into that. I'm going to talk about specific cities now. We're going to talk about Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. So here's your timeline for Dallas. 5 o'clock this evening, you're headed out to dinner. No weather worries, maybe a few sprinkles or an isolated shower. As you're wrapping up your evening, you're headed back home. Maybe you're even getting ready for bed. It's 10 o'clock at night at this point. There are storms headed your way. Remember that long line of storms? That is just on the western side of Fort Worth right now. These storms will continue to track through the city as we head into the overnight hours, 2, 3 a.m. It's probably very, very loud in Dallas with all that lightning, thunder, heavy rain, and potential hail, wind, and tornado threats. You can see for San Antonio, it's a later timeline. We're talking about 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the timeline for San Antonio here. 2 o'clock in the morning, you've got storms on your doorstep, if not already out the window. You can see that we're also watching for larger hail in this area. 1.5 inches, ping pong ball size hail for the largest hailstone. However, I think that most of that hail is going to be on the smaller side. Your biggest risk in San Antonio is going to be that tornado and high wind threat. I would absolutely tie down those trampolines, make sure that anything that's out in the yard is pulled back in closer to the house, because I think that we're going to watch for a high wind and a tornado threat in this area. Storms will most likely wrap up shortly after sunrise tomorrow, so we're talking about 8, 9, at the latest 10 o'clock with just some lingering showers after that. Let's talk about Houston now, because we do have several rounds of storms for Houston tomorrow. We're going to talk about tonight first, then we'll talk about Saturday here in just a few minutes. So Houston, you stay dry through most of today. We're not too worried about anything severe until you go to bed tonight, and it's the overnight hours, 5 a.m. to noon tomorrow. If you're an early riser, those storms are going to be on your doorstep as you get up tomorrow morning. 5 a.m. to noon is your storm timeline here. Maximum hail size, I went with $half size hail for this first round of storms, but a better chance for larger hail with the second round of storms. So with that, let's get into Saturday. Let's talk about that second round of storms here, where you can see we've got larger hailstones expected for both San Antonio, Houston, Austin, maybe Dallas getting some of that quarter size hail. I'm not too confident about large hail for Dallas on Saturday. Moving on to your maximum hail size here, I would put you guys at about ping pong to golf ball size hail for largest hail Saturday. So again, this is with that second round of storms, not the early morning, the afternoon and evening. You've also got a level 2 tornado risk with those storms that are going to come through the afternoon and late night hours on Saturday. So 2 rounds of storms here. This is the tornado risk for the second round of storms. Let's talk about the wind risk now. Moving on, highlighted here in blue, Dallas is included in this wind risk. I would say 65, 70 mile per hour winds for places like Dallas, but maybe a little bit stronger wind speeds farther down to the south into places like Houston and Louisiana. After that first round of storms goes through the eastern side of Texas, that second round forms. Let's go ahead and let's zoom down into East Texas here. Here's your first round, right? It's early in the morning. It's 6 a.m. It's loud as these storms are leaving San Antonio and coming into Houston. You get a break, get to enjoy your Saturday a little bit, but you've got more storms forming back to the west, so keep an eye on this. They'll form between Dallas and Austin on the west side of 35. Storms will reach Dallas, so we're talking about Godley, Texas, DFW, Metro, through the afternoon hours. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you've got storms down to your south. This will continue to track to the east into places like San Antonio and Houston as we head into the evening hours, and then into the overnight hours, tracking out of Texas and into Louisiana. As we head into those late night hours, we're talking 9, 10, 11 o'clock, we still have all severe weather hazards possible, hail, wind, and tornadoes